Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Hacking Leadership Authors podcast here. This new series that we've been doing this year is something we're really excited about. And, Chris and I have done a lot of work in kind of combing through requests, doing some research here, vetting some amazing leadership authors. And we have another one today. I want to introduce you to Mark Mears. He's a #1 best-selling author, keynote speaker, consultant, visionary business leader. He serves as the founder and the chief growth officer for Leaf Growth Ventures LLC, which is a consulting firm. And he's got some amazing content here that we have really become fans of. A lot of overlap in the dialogue that we have around leadership, a lot of approaches. So first and foremost, Mark, welcome to the show. Say hi to the audience.
Hey, Lorenzo, and hello to your audience. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Definitely. Yes. I want to jump right into it. You've got a book, The Purposeful Growth Revolution, 4 Ways to Grow from Leader to Legacy Builder. Number one, I love the title. I'm a sucker for tell me what's going on here, and give me some numbers on ways that I can kind of grow. Acronyms, I'm all for that type of stuff like that. So I love the title, but I do want to start off right off the bat. Talk to me about what got you to this point about writing about this. What were the things that led you down this path to kind of have this moment of sharing this content with the world?
Well, I never started off thinking I was going to write a book. And, while I do have a journalism background, and I fancy myself a decent writer, I love to communicate ideas. And so years ago, I think it was February 21st, 2013, I got an epiphany. And it came to me the morning after a significant life event. And I had just been let go from a president's role for a $500 million casual restaurant concept that was owned by a publicly traded entity, and brought in as the president from the Cheesecake Factory, where I served as senior VP and chief marketing officer, with 3 different objectives. Turn the brand around. It was down double-digit negative in sales. Research and establish a new contemporary and relevant brand positioning, and create kind of a new concept or concept extension that could earn the right to capital. And I took on the challenge, and my team and we put together a wonderful plan that we faithfully executed and sacrificed and did a lot of early mornings, late nights, traveling here and there. But we accomplished all 3 of those objectives within 2 years. Instead of getting the capital that we earned the right to receive to grow, I heard we've decided to move in a different direction. The board wants to put the brand up for sale. But don't worry, you're going to lead the sale process. And we'll give you a stay-on bonus and a sale bonus if it happens. And if it doesn't happen, you go back to doing what you normally do. But you can't tell anybody. It's confidential. Oh my goodness. So that just happened. Well, we worked through all of that process, and we had a lot of tire kickers, a lot of private equity firms. We found a strategic play that we thought was going to be our rightful owner for a lot of reasons we don't have time to go into. The deal closed on a Friday, and we're drinking champagne, celebrating over the weekend. And on Monday morning, I had a meeting scheduled with the new CEO at 8 o'clock, and this meeting was scheduled for 2 weeks out. So we were going to plot our new future together. At 8:05, I'm out the door. We've decided to move in a different direction. And I'm like, what, over the weekend? So I learned a valuable lesson of the world of corporate America. And so I'm living in Southern California at the time. And that February 21st date I mentioned is about the time we start to see the first signs of spring. Not here in Kansas City, but in Southern California. And after a fitful night of sleep, I took the dog out the next morning early. And you've always heard the term, it's always darkest before the dawn. And that was very, very apropos and dark in many ways, not just light, but in how I viewed myself and what happened and what could I have done different. And oh, by the way, all of our executive team was let go within 2 weeks, and they moved the corporate office from Orange County to their U.S. headquarters in Dallas. So all things they said they wouldn't do, they did. And so I was frustrated that I wasn't smarter or wasn't able to, see beyond the corner of what could have happened. And so I take the dog outside, and we had a fig tree in our backyard that was barren from the 5 or 6 weeks of winter we do get. But Lorenzo, as God is my witness, as the sun was coming up over the wall in our backyard, it shone on that fig tree, and there on the end of just one branch was this tiny little green sprig of a leaf just starting to bud. And there I got this epiphany that a leaf is a symbol of growth and rebirth. Here I was going through this dark, woe is me moment, and I'm getting this sign that says it's going to be okay. Spring is coming. And a leaf is not only a symbol of growth and rebirth. I used to lead with the rule of threes. If you focus on three things, people can't deal with more than that. You'll be more productive and ultimately more successful. So my three things as part of that turnaround were leadership, engagement, and accountability. Well, powerful three things, right? We need strong leadership up and down the ranks. We need to engage people's heart, head, hands, and habits in this process. And we need to hold ourselves and our team members accountable for results because, after all, we're a publicly traded company. And now here we are going through a sales process, which no one really knew until the last minute. And so I use that in all my weekly communications. Reward and recognition. I'd say Lorenzo is leading his team and they're doing this and they're doing that, or he's engaging them on a deeper level and they're getting these kinds of results, or he's holding them accountable for results. And now look what, sales are coming out of it. And everybody knew it. And it wasn't until that morning after I said something's missing. That approach should have worked. And that's when I believe now in the higher power of fours. Now think about that leaf in spring, right? There are four directions. There are four seasons, not three. There are four chambers to the human heart, not three. There are four elements to an atom, the source of all life, not three. I could go on and on with this foreplay, but you get the idea. And it hit me that what was missing for me was fulfillment. We were burning the candle at both ends. We were doing this kind of heroic, career-altering project that we all could look back and be proud of, and yet we were not being fulfilled. We had the rug taken out from under us. And that's when I got this notion of this four-circle Venn diagram, like the four seasons overlap. And it came to me that, we need strong leadership. We need engagement of one's heart, head, hands, and habits. We need accountability up and down the ranks, but we also need fulfillment. And so I came up with this model where that fig tree serves as my kind of idea around purposeful growth. It only knows how to be a fig tree. Its purpose is to grow fig leaves where all growth happens in a plant or a tree through the magic of photosynthesis, right? But leadership represents the roots, the seed and the roots. And you have to have a strong, solid root system to grow any plant or tree. Just like in business, you have to have strong leadership. And that leads to alignment. And then engagement is the trunk, the branches, and the system of nourishment, which is called savi, I learned, that translates into lifeblood. What's the lifeblood of any organization? It's people. So by engaging their heart, head, hands, and habits, you're giving them the result of empowerment. And we know that empowered team members will give you more discretionary effort. They'll, give you better and higher quality work. They'll have a stake of ownership in the outcome, and they'll be more loyal, whether it's staying in the firm themselves or recommending you to others, right? But then we say, what's that plant or tree designed to do? That's where accountability comes in. And that's the leaf and the fruit of the tree. And the cool thing about that fig tree is not only is it to grow, fig leaves, but to bear fig fruit. And within that fig fruit come the achievement. And we'll get to later the fact that it also has seeds in it that can be scattered for future growth. That then leads to the idea, the foundation of all of it is, fulfillment. And that's the environment, that nurturing environment that has the soil, the sun, the rain, that provides the balance necessary for photosynthesis to occur. And it's like the culture of any organization, or we're going to get to the fact that I prefer the word community. And that really is where people feel like they belong and can do their best work. So the notion of leaf, and why I call it a revolution, is it's all revolving around purposeful growth. It's revolving around being the best fig tree it can be in the environment it's in. It's being the best team member we can be within the environment we're in. And it's being not just a manager, but a leader. And ultimately, a living legacy builder, which we'll talk more about. But I got that epiphany several years ago, and I started working on it. And then it became a book idea. And I kept putting it off and taking another C-level job and progressing in my career. But finally, it caught up to me. A couple of years ago, I said, if I'm going to do this, I've got to kind of put my W-2 corporate world by the side and really focus on this thing I felt called to do. And so I finished the book, and now I'm using it as a foundation for speaking and consulting. And I'm working on an e-learning platform that will help people meld their purpose in both life and work. And it's led me to, believe it or not, write a second book, which we'll talk about.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. There's so much to unpack there, but so very easy to understand and consume, kind of like, and I love the, kind of the genesis story of these things, because I think that when it's really great, relevant, authentic content, it comes from the things that you talked to. There's a personal testimony to it of an experience that happened, to then having to sit back and kind of reflect and just like think through where am I today? Where am I going? How did I get here? What makes sense? And then all these dots kind of start to connect themselves naturally. And I think when that happens, it's just, and I've had that moment in my life where then just like the creative juices just flow. Like it all makes sense now. Everything has a place. Everything kind of calls back to things that I've experienced and things that I've seen in my leadership and things that I've seen in great mentors. So I love that. And I know, I want to ask a couple of questions. We are going to take a break for just a second for some of our sponsors. But when we get back, Mark, I want to ask you about the difference between a leader and a legacy builder. I love that you use that language, and I love that there is a difference. And I talk about legacy a lot, so I can't wait to hear about this. But we will be right back after a few words from our sponsors. All right, Mark, leader and a legacy builder. So walk me through, what's the difference between these two things?
Well, it's a great question. I get asked a lot, but we have to kind of rewind a bit further. Think about those of us who were junior in our careers. We were doers, and it was functional, right? We need a job. We got bills to pay, right? And we had to start somewhere, right? So, but if you're a good doer, oftentimes you'll get elevated to become a manager, right? And if you're a manager, that can be more transactional. If you think about business schools, some of them are called schools of management. We learn how to be a manager, but when I say that's transactional, it's like we're managing projects, we're managing timelines and budgets and resources and metrics of performance and people to get the job done, right? Well, that might create a sense where if someone works for you, and by the way, in my career, I've never said anyone works for me. I say they work with me, right? But in this hierarchical command and control style that I'm trying to transform, it makes someone say, if I'm working for you, I must obey you because you're a manager with a title that's bigger than mine and a voice that's bigger than mine. And so that becomes transactional. Now you have an opportunity as a manager to grow into a leader. And a leader is more relational. It's someone I want to follow, right? But if I'm a legacy builder, it's more than just you're, Lorenzo, the person I want to follow. You're such a great leader, and I enjoy working with you so much that I want to lead like you when it's my turn to lead. And that's the living legacy that you bequeath to your team members, right? It's not legacy that means something you bequeath after you're dead and buried, something of value that you give to a loved one. It's how do you treat your team members and lead them in a way that they not only want to follow you willingly, not just obey you, but they want to lead like you. And when I worked for Pizza Hut in the PepsiCo world, back when they still owned us, we referred to that as your leadership shadow. So how are you casting your leadership shadow, right? And I think that's really what people understand. more and better today, because you used the word mentors. I had some wonderful mentors who walked alongside me, from my professor in advertising and marketing at the University of Kansas, Dr. Tim Bankston, who talked me out of going to law school and into going to graduate school at Northwestern, where I learned at the feet of Dr. Don Schultz, who came up with the whole concept of integrated marketing communications, or IMC, which there are curriculums all over the world now. I was in on the early stages of that. I was IMC before IMC was cool. Well, that then served as the bedrock or foundation for my marketing communication strategies going forward with all the brands that I worked with. And then one brand I worked for, easily the most inspirational leader, a guy named David Novak, when I was at Pizza Hut, and he was the head of marketing. And so then he later rose up the ranks within PepsiCo, and then became the co-founder and CEO of Yum Brands, which was the new organization that was banded together after PepsiCo divested the restaurant brands. And I learned so much from him that I wanted to lead like him. And then I had another mentor, David Overton, at the Cheesecake Factory, the founder and dynamic CEO and chairman, and just learned a lot of how to work and how to always strive for excellence. So if I learned about inspiration, reward, and recognition, and the idea that big ideas move business from David Novak, I learned about casting a vision and then organizing an organization around it. I mean, think about almost 300 menu items, almost all made fresh from scratch. And it's been going on for over 40 some years now. And I think that those are people that impacted my life to where I now want to pay it backward. And that's why I ended up writing this book, was to take all of these key experiences and observations of those I admire, along with a curation of research that supports my thesis and subject matter experts that can go deeper than I can go. And I'm crafting what I call a curated reading experience that isn't just something you'll pick up in an airport and finish when you land. It's a pretty lengthy tome, but it's been written carefully and thoughtfully and planfully to carry the reader through a journey with 4 key sections. How do you cultivate your field for purposeful growth? And it's the reason why, growth matters, the reason why purposeful growth matters even more. And then it's planting your seed for purposeful self. And that's all about the self-reflective part of who am I, where do I want to go, and how do I get there? And then there's the third section, which is the meteor section with the leaf growth model. And that's, kind of driving you forward for purposeful work, right? And then finally, it's scattering your seeds for purposeful life. And so if you think about that 4-circle Venn diagram, all of that is revolving around purposeful growth. And it's different for all of us. I created my own purpose statement a few years ago, and I wanted to drink my own Kool-Aid. And I said, Lorenzo, I don't want to just make money and retire. I want to make a difference and inspire. And that means making a difference in the lives of others and inspiring them to want to do likewise. So it creates this virtuous cycle of reciprocity. And that's what I call paying it backward, because it's not paying it forward. Because when I go to Starbucks, and I'm a big coffee junkie, but I'm also a growth junkie, so a little of both. One hand washes the other. I'll pay for the car behind me in an intentional act of kindness, not some random act of kindness if the spirit moves me. But I kind of made that my thing because it fits perfectly with my purpose statement. Because when I do that, I go to the carry out or drive-through counter and tell the person, just tell them, God bless you, your debt has been paid. And they say, oh, that's so nice. And then I drive off and I say a silent prayer for them. I don't know them, they don't know me, and I have no idea what they're going through in their life. But I'm merely praying for them to be blessed in some way by that intentional act of kindness. And there's a law of reciprocity, and it's truly a law proven by research that says when someone does something nice for you, you feel a deep urge to do something nice for somebody else, and oftentimes in greater measure. So now imagine that person feeling blessed that someone in the car ahead of them cared enough about them to not only bless them with a cup of coffee or two, depending on how many people are in the car, but an actual blessing. And don't you think they might want to do likewise for the car behind them and the car behind them and the car behind them? I'm told it happens. So imagine the ripple effect of just one act of kindness or talking to and dealing with and loving on one team member who might be in your direct report. Once that pebble goes in the pond, you don't see the pebble anymore, but you
Right.
see the ripple on top of the water. Now imagine if you have 4 or 5 direct reports. You have the opportunity for 4 or 5 pebbles. And now all of a sudden, exponentially, you're reaching more people and more lives. And so for me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I love that. There's a lot of things you spoke about that really resonated with me, and I think the kind of doing something with no expectation of return, doing the right thing, kind of being that pebble to make the positive ripple across. I think is such an important thing, and just in life in general, but especially when you are responsible for the development and the success of kind of people under your leadership or amongst you with the work that you do every single day. I also think you brought this up around the power and the time you have to spend figuring out who you are. And I love kind of the questions that you ask and how you talk about that because I was having this conversation not too long ago with Elizabeth Bieniek, who's also another leadership author, around sometimes we look in the mirror and we see the aspirational version of ourselves. Who we want to be, who we think we should be, how we think we show up. And if we really want to be able to pour into others, we also have to pour into ourselves with an element of self accountability and a realization of that how we think we show up may not actually be how we show up. And we have to do that work to ask those around us and bring them on the journey and be open enough to take that in. That's a critical piece.
Yeah, amen, brother. I tell you, there's this chapter in the book that says, who are you? And there's four dimensions of you, as I see it. Again, they're all intertwined, like that 4-circle Venn diagram that I use as a model throughout the book. It's not the model for everything, but I found it to be pretty darn good for a lot of things. And you're right. There is who you think you are. There's who you actually are. There's who others see you as being. To your point about getting feedback, and then there's who you ideally want to be. And so you have to understand each of those 4 circles, and there are diagnostic tools that are out there that can help you understand not only who you think you are but who you actually are. And that doesn't mean it's bad. It's like when you take DISC or Myers-Briggs or things like that, you're basically saying here's who I am, right? But if you just stop there and you don't get the feedback from people around you because, perception is reality. It's not what you think, it's what they're seeing you as being. And they could help coach you and show you some blind spots that maybe you didn't know you had. And then finally, it's like, okay, who do you ideally want to be? And then the next chapter tells you how you get there, right? So the 4 dimensions of you, but I like what you said about yourself. And so in this, world of Simon Sinek's Start With Why, I love the model and I've admired it for a long time, but I got to thinking when I had the time to think that we should actually start with who, and specifically who we serve. And so if you think about it, there's a 4-circle Venn diagram. We serve personally ourselves, mentally, physically, emotionally, and maybe financially. We serve, relationally, those we love and those who love us in our life. And we serve professionally in our workplace. Who do we serve? It could be our team members. It could be our superiors. It could be our clients or customers or business partners. And then it's spiritually. What do we believe? And what binds all that together? And so 4-circle Venn diagram, we serve personally, relationally, professionally, and spiritually. That leads us to our why, which is our motivation or purpose or raison d'être. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. I'm not French. That then leads us to our how. How are we uniquely gifted to help do something positive in the world? And how are we going to invest ourselves and our gifts to do that? And then ultimately, what do we do with the time that we're given? And I don't know, Lorenzo, about you, but For me, I know one thing. I don't know much, but we will all have 24 hours in a given day. Not one of us has a minute more or a minute less. And so the what should be this collection of what do we stand for and what will we do to achieve whatever purpose we feel on our heart we should be working toward. And that's why I like the word purposeful more than just purpose, because purposeful is an action word. Purpose is a noun. And it might seem like people are, well, where's my purpose? But if you're purposeful, you're working toward what it could ultimately, and it could change multiple times during seasons of your life. And you don't have to get wrapped up into, well, I'm age 40, whatever, and I don't feel I have my purpose yet. How can I find it? Where is it? Like it's some piece of lost luggage. But you have to be not just open-minded, but open-hearted to receive the signals that may be around you. The dots that if you were to be open-minded and open-hearted, you could start connecting and see there's a red thread woven throughout things. For me, my career spanned restaurant, retail, hospitality, and entertainment. The red thread woven through all of it is servant leadership and feeling like hospitality of helping someone have their best day or best moment. When I was Senior VP of Marketing and Sales at Universal Studios Hollywood, I would be able to walk the park and I'd see people enjoying their best day. Or at the Cheesecake Factory and seeing people celebrating a birthday, an anniversary, or having just a wonderful time together over a meal in an over-the-top immersive dining experience. Those are things that lit me and continue to light me up. What is it for you? And so that's what led me to my purpose statement. I said, I got to put this in writing because I want this to be the foundation for how I want to live the back half of my life and career.
No, I love that, Mark. I think it's so powerful, and having that intention, being able to document it, taking the time to reflect on it, and then thinking around like how does this kind of this purposeful statement, how does this theory play itself out in actionable steps and things that everyone can do, I think is absolutely phenomenal. I definitely appreciate the time and the dialogue today around the book. We're gonna continue this dialogue in our Pillars and Pitfalls new kind of section of the podcast here over on lionsguide.com. But first, I want to say, please, if you haven't checked it, go check out the Purposeful Growth Revolution: 4 Ways to Grow from Leader to Legacy Builder. And check that out. We fully endorse it. We love the content. We think it's extremely powerful and actionable. But where else, Mark? Where else can people find you? How can they see more of your content? Where can they subscribe?
Yeah, the book's available on Amazon, and you can get it as a Kindle ebook or paperback or hardcover if that's your jam. Also, as an audiobook. I know there's more and more people that are consuming
me. Yeah, that's
written
I do
content.
audiobooks. Yep.
Yeah, check out the audiobook. You can listen to a 5-minute little summary at the very, very beginning, and if that floats your boat, go ahead and make the purchase and link in with me. I want you to follow and connect with me so we can continue this conversation so that I can learn from you. And I know your listeners have a ton of experiences and ideas to share, and I would love to listen to them and see if it can help continue along my growth journey. So hit me up on LinkedIn, and then if you would, go to my website at Mark A. Mears, M-E-A-R-S, markamears.com, and there you'll find a very brief and free purposeful growth self-assessment that you can take. It's about 5, 6, 7 minutes long, and it will help provide a benchmark of where you are in this whole concept of purposeful growth in your life and in your work. And I'll send you a report, customized with your scores, along with some tips from myself. And that would really help give me an understanding of who is where in this kind of journey of purposeful growth.
I love it. Thank you so much, Mark, once again. And everybody, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you all next time.
Thank you.